Anya? Oh, is it already over? Oh, that flew by. Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're going to be taking a look at Boynextdoor. It is 돌아버리겠다. I believe it translates to I'll turn away. Google, at least that's what Google Translate states that that's what it means. And this is their debut, I believe their debut track. This is a Patreon request, a shout out to Lauren for this. I'm very excited to take a look. She even really helped by making a playlist to make sure that I got the right ones. She also requested that it would be better if I watched the music video first and then the dance practice, because normally what I do, especially if it's like a new group, I marathon it and then I go back and watch the music videos, but this is a different process for me, so I'm kind of excited about it. But yeah, so I know this is a 5th gen group. They recently debuted, like I had mentioned, and so I've only seen a couple other Gen 5s, I think Rise, Baby Monster, and Psychers at this point, probably others, but those are the ones at the top of my head that I remember looking at. So this will be really fun to see what this group has to offer. So let's go ahead and check it out.
손이 슬쩍 단 듯한데 날 보고 시큰해 뭐 이리 예뻐 미쳤나 봐 I'm sorry 자 이제 여기부터 문제야 너게랑 발장기 돌아 그냥 확 한 번만 지나볼까 걔 누군데 돌아버리겠다
Wow.
I'm going crazy, but no way, no way, no way. 나쁜 놈으로 빚은 그거 no way.
This is so cute.
모든 네가 날 like 따로 보는지 사랑을 공부해 나보고 바보래도
Oh, I just laughed. I'm so sorry. I'm not supposed to laugh. That timing was really funny.
이 감정 천노인데 이번에 좀 달라
So they shot this in LA.
미쳤나 Oh my god
Oh my god. This is giving. This track does. I heard that this is Zico's company. And this song totally gives off that energy for sure. Oh, this makes me really excited to see the choreography. I'm seeing little tastes of it here. Oh, I love the vibes of this. Look at my eyes, nose, lips, and my jokes. Okay. Anya? Anya? Ah, that was very, very cute. It actually fits the name of the group pretty well, actually. Boynextdoor has a very neighborhood, communal, community-based kind of vibes here. I thought that was a really great track. It was tasteful, and now I think it's time to take a look at the dance practice. Let's get to the analysis.
내가 미친 건지 한쪽 봐 손이 슬쩍 단 듯한데 날 보고 시큰해 뭐 이리 예뻐 미쳤나 봐 I'm sorry 자 이제 여기부터
Fun.
너게랑 발장기 돌아
Cute.
그냥 확 한 번만 지나볼까 걔 누군데
Guys, these starties, I've seen it so many times in these Gen 5s, I swear. Well, I'll even call it just a really aggressive shoot. Little butterflies in there, but they're modifying them a little bit different than when you see in the Gen 4s where they do butterflies. Or happy feet is what it's also called too. I'm going crazy. Dude, I would love his pants. Yo, they're such a nice color too. Great performance. For real. Hey. It's turning into a little bit of an earworm as well, which is fun. So it's like angsty teens, you know, but more on the innocent side. I'm a fan. He was a little bit late getting to a spot there. Hey. And notice they changed the groove on that, so it didn't have an Afro feel. The accent was to the outside, which I thought was really fun. Hey! Okay, Mr. Light Feet. I see that. Anya? Oh, is it already over? Oh, that flew by. That's really, really enjoyable. Like, I really got to see the concept of the music video, and it really did help tailor it to the choreography, and the choreography matched very well. It was very cohesive. So that gets an A+ for me. Let's talk about it. We're gonna go from the tippy top. Okay, so from the beginning here, really fun. It does give this, you know, where all of them are like, oh my goodness, I really like you. I want you to look at me too. You know, it really does. It's like, I totally get it. So, and there is a lot of wordplay here. I'm not super fluent on what verbiage that they use, but we do have tone to go off of. I love it. So the airtime on that is really nice. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. Really very much appreciate that. So he's, honestly too, whenever you notice when he hits the energy, it's giving the shaking energy like what you see from Psychers, what you see from ATs. It gives off that KQ shakeroo. That's what I call that. But I love having your feature and everybody responds out of him to allow, and they're still framing him very well too. He goes ding, 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 placates off of the tonal color of the track, which I really like there. And he's a little bit lower too, and everybody else is more on the midline or a little bit taller, which I like because it keeps him as your feature because he's on the lower side and everybody is looking where his hands are, which also helps us as an audience want to look and see what he's doing as well. So, and I've said this many times over, but I'm gonna always say it because, you know, sometimes groups always have a work in progress in that way of something that they can need to chronically work on. Is their head placement? In other groups, that's something that makes their routine so captivating. Is their overall movement quality and where they're looking with their head and their details. So far they're doing a very good job of committing to that. Moving on from here, I love that he resets it, looks at the front. They're still looking at where he's looking, and that still keeps him as the feature, even though they're a little bit lower and there's more enclosed. It feels more intimate, and I love that. And it looks like he took the phone here. Really great choice. Having a conversation, moves it over. We did see a bit of that phone in the video, and it was in English. So they typed it in English. I thought that was interesting. But also when you look at location, it did feel like we were in probably like, it gave America vibes because of the type of houses there were there. Oh goodness, my voice. I loved how they actually did like a little, not a fist bump, like an elbow bump, and it caused this ripple response around, but everyone made a slightly different choice. And so it still felt individualized, but very cohesive in the dynamic switch. So from here, we have our new feature because look where they're all looking. They're looking here, so it makes us want to look and see what's happening at the end of this dynamic. So he goes, he has this movement. They're like, oh, he really cute. Love that with the throws, sliding it through, boom, bom, bom. I love that accent to the side. They're really good on the performance too. Definitely on the theatrics in a great way. They're not overkilling it, like they're not overdoing it is what I mean. But they're also not underselling it either. So it feels that, I guess my question would be, would I be able to understand the vibe of this without the music video? Personally, I believe yes, because I felt that way about Psychers when I saw Tricky House. They definitely placated to a very different vibe based on the tone. It did give more like Arabian in nature, but the music video did not read that at all. But I know that was a whole different lore entirely, and we can get into that later. But here it's definitely it's matching. The choreography matches very, very well the intention of the lyrics that they're trying to present as well. So having this, he's like, oh my gosh, you know, it feels like we're feeling feelings, you know, and it makes me want to feel that with them. They definitely have this very empathetic nature. They want to pull you in, but there's like this little angst about it, this frustration about it, and I love it. They go hit it around, boom, and they build it back up. I really feel like we're starting to trend into the 2000s rock kind of vibes, not more so the neurotic side, like I wouldn't even call it like the Coldplay vibes. The more, and honestly, it's very funny, like the Christian rock vibes of like Hawk Nelson and Reliant K and just like that era. If you have no idea what those groups are, that's okay. But that's what it's giving to me. I would even say One OK Rock if you wanted to get more like a mainstream artist that's still very relevant today. They had a couple era tracks that remind me of this. It's just fun. It feels like we're listening to, this feels like a theme song to like a school sitcom. It kind of gives off that energy, and I really love that. Pulling it through, boom, and a da-da-da. I really enjoy that. Throwing it through, bringing it up and back. Having the energy very, very clean in the unison sections here. The range is looking pretty good. I'd say there's just some baby refinements. I would say formation changes, like making sure everybody's in their spot at the right time. It's going to be their chronic thing I'm noticing here. I love the sniff through, like just like kind of brushing over, and then with the throw down, I really like that. Bringing it back in. Down and up. Yeah, I think it's for this group, it's going to be your spacing and your staging. So you notice that there's a significantly bigger gap between these four than these four. I would feel like we either need to make the choice. I feel gut tells me this is probably what it needs to be. So these guys need to come in a little bit more. But I really, really like it. The roll through, boom, doo-doo, slightly syncopated, so they didn't go on like even counts, or 3 and 4, and they just went da, 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 and it really helps you tailor it to your music. And I love little choices like that because it still makes it groovy, it makes it fun. It is a bit on the simpler side, but simple is not easy. But it allows us to feel like they are being thorough and thoughtful to their music. Now, moving on from here, I love how they dig back down, boom, doom, doom, really like the heel toe heels. Very nice, and he runs right through them, and they all explode out of energy. Great way to initiate your next feature. Throwing it through, da 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 da. It's because they have such fullness in some of their movements. It's what helps placate towards that idea that we have a little bit of angst about us, but we're here for a good time. It's this not puppy energy, but it's this teenage energy. They give teenage energy, and they honestly feel like they act their age. I think I looked and I gleaned just a little bit in the comments of the music video prior to watching, and some people were very appreciative of the fact that they are dancing a concept that really tailors to their age. And I would also concur. I really like that. I mean, there's certain concepts that are really fun, don't get me wrong. A lot of Gen 5s I think are totally fine, and a lot of the concepts they're doing, but it is really nice where there's only a certain age or time period where they would be able to pursue this type of concept. I'll say 17 when they debuted, like their Manse Adore You, and Yepuda. I think that those were really, really good for them because they were younger. Now am I a fan of the fact that some of them debuted at 16? Personally, maybe not, because of just the industry in general. I always prefer individuals who debut around adult age, 18, 19, because we all know there can be such criticism. Once they're in the public eye as idols, there's a lot of more, you can be under a lot of scrutiny a lot faster. So I just think it's a little bit on the safer end on mentality wise, but that's a completely separate topic entirely. I don't know how old they are. That's totally fine, but they really do feel like they are acting their age. If they are underage, they're like 16, 17. I mean, I feel like this is a really great concept for them to do because they've debuted. So the energy there as they hit, they transition around. I love having, there's just these little interactions with each other. And then the shoot, I swear, da, 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 da. I've seen that in like almost in so many choreographies. It was probably Psychers because I just recently finished Psychers. There are so many shoots, and that was my overall critique on BB Trippin'. choreographically that they need to at least vary it up or create a different transition variation for them because it was starting to bleed over too much into some of their tracks. So it was showing more predictability behind it instead of us appreciating just the track and the essence of what they were bringing in that moment. But that was just a complete side thing. Back to here though, that didn't bother me at all. Just the full energy that everybody brought, and there was still some individuality. Yep. So I mean, it's really nice that I'm able to find that each group has a different chronic thing that they're going to work on. For them, it is their spacing. Because look, even here, look at this very back. They are a bit off here. There's a big gap right here as well. So we're not having these really clean positions, and some of that just stems from when you do a lot of individual movement, sometimes the range in which you execute it can modify where you start and where you finish. So that's just my in general note. I don't mind it though. I do like the choice where everybody goes down and up, and then boom, ha, and they bring it up, and then they modify it so they go more external, and then they bring more internal with the upper body. And they do a nice little shoot once again, but they switch up the upper body, bringing it down, once again, another thing, wordplay on tone, love it. I'm very intrigued on how this one would be live. I just am intrigued about that in general, because I feel like this choreography, I feel like would be more possible to do live compared to some of the other ones I have seen in, recently. So, I love this, I like you, and then they kind of throw it down. And then they remodify it from here to here. Cute, very cute. Nice little reveal right here, down to the butterfly. So butterfly's an Afro move, or we call it the happy feet. Normally, it would fall, when it comes to the type of percussion that would happen, you would say more organic in percussion. It just matches better to the overall, essence of Africa. And I personally really like how they chose to modify it, because the type of track doesn't really come from Ghana or from Nigeria. It's not really referencing any type of those percussion elements. So for me, I would feel like we would need to modify, at least recognize the fundamental. I would hope that they understand that this does come from somewhere. Because whenever you do choose to modify a foundational element, and this is something that I really try to instill in my own students, which is why I say it here, I don't know the type of training they've received. I do know they received idol training, of course, but we don't know which instructors, who are their go-to regular choreographers, things like that. I don't know that information, and I am looking forward to knowing that in the future. And I do not know if they have puzzle piece choreographers, like a team, or if they have a team of people who puzzle piece it together, or they have like an actual like resident choreographer. Based on the cleanliness here, it can swing either way. I'm not entirely sure. With Hive, they do tend to puzzle piece a little bit more, with the exception of 17. They do have their go-to choreographer with them, but they're not technically with Hive. They're with KOZ Entertainment. So that would make me feel that there's a chance we may have a resident on this. Don't know. I'll see it based on the fingerprints of the other choreographies. But my entire point is this. I do not know if whenever they are learning the choreography, or if they're learning the fundamentals or the techniques, I would hope that they're learning technique, not just choreo, because I feel like you're gonna get a lot more out of dancing if you understand the foundation. If you have a strong foundation, you can do a lot more instead of just choreography retention. If you really placate and try to understand the historical context or the cultural context of your movement, so like with butterfly, or if you were doing like the Pololo or the Telly or the Network. I know we do see, you have some James Brown influence. You also see Camel Walk and Network do look similar, but the transitions are different. They're from different communities, from different parts of the world. So I think like understanding that there's names to these moves and that they do come from somewhere outside of just the choreographer's brain, I think really helps us understand and make me want to invest in what they're doing more, because I feel like there's more thoroughness and thoughtfulness and consideration behind the movement intention. So going to this actual move, for example, the actual groove to do it is very different than what they're doing here. The actual movement that they're doing is in the lower half, but the upper body is what's causing the polyrhythm to adjust and modify. So as they're hitting it down, do-do-do, do-do-do, the accent is, instead of it goes do-do-do, do-do-do, normally is down, but here it goes do-do-do, and like the accent it to the outside. I do like that choice. So that would just be my hope, is that they understand that it is more than just movement. There is culture behind it. And that's just what I say about most choreography, but I really wanted to make the note here because there was a lot of polyrhythmic modification to it that I really like, but I want to like it even more if they even took the time to really understand it in that way. So I do love the energy, dun, da, 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 bring it down, swivel it around and push it through. Just some very slight, some people are choosing more of that kicking rotation. Some have already brought the leg up. So it's just a range, preference to just modify that a little bit more. He's the only one that looked away, then looked forward, and then pulled it in with a nice little slide of the foot. Everybody else is vibing out, and they chose to go out with the foot when he slid in. So that was a really nice opposition to still maintain your feature. Spacing, once again, is a little bit off. I feel that my guy over here, he just needs to scoot up just a smidge right here to be in line with my guy right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 people. What's up with these even groups this year? God. Normally we got an odd number because it's so much easier to feature people that way, and you don't have people right behind each other. But I know with Baby Monster that was circumstantial. They were supposed to debut with 7, but they have 6 for now. But here, I mean, it looks like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I counted right, 6. So yeah, and you can tell sometimes whenever you have somebody right behind another, but you have symmetry on both sides. That's like a symptom of showcasing even numbers. Nice individual choices. I do wish that we had a more refined formation because it would have really helped us clock in on that feature more definitely than just assuming because he was in the center. Having that moment and they go, really like that. I love that he put his hoodie up. I think that was a really fun choice in the circumstances where he goes, he puts his hoodie up, he's the only one with the hoodie up. Love that. And he's like, are you crazy? But, and then he goes, boom, and I love the drop in the energy uses of the core to really create that reverb near the tail end. That was fun. And he undoes it, and then everybody kind of responds back. I love it. He puts it up, they drop down, he undoes it, they go back. So that was a really, really great dynamic. I don't know if they did that on purpose, but I really like it. I still like his pants. So if one of you guys could figure out, I made it to Google, reverse search it. I really like those. Hold on, I'm going to do a little, let me do this. Just for safekeeping for me later, because I may want to buy a pair of those. Moving on from there, though, it goes da-na-na-na-na-na, really nice. They all come in. So we are having a lot of moments where a lot of them are kind of huddled around and there's a moment happening, but each one is a little different. First time, they were near the back, looking at a phone, wordplay there, and then they tail it around. Next feature is over in the corner, and then here, he starts in the back, moves his way forward, so they're way more apparent in the front. Sometimes we have these lines with somebody isolated. So I really do appreciate the formation changes, but still having this essence of conversation, which is nice. He goes da-da-da, dropping it down. I love the smiles. It's just fun. Also having him go down and around. And also he's hyping them up. He's not just running. Part of me, I don't mind just running. It shows a sense of professionalism that you don't want to take away from the vocals. But I actually really like this. This matches very well with the track in general. Just him staying involved and staying hyped up with the next feature. It feels like we're all in this together. Hashtag High School Musical. Rest in peace. But I like how he chose to have those arms and then he broke through them, which is nice. With the arms up and they go doo-doo. I like that. Notice that my front is out and then his legs are pretty in. So I don't know if that was just a choreography discrepancy. Not quite sure. So that would be something that they would need to make sure everybody's knees are in the right place there. I mean, they're fine now, but how they set it up was a little off, which is, there's my effect. They're just a little bit off how they set it up. So it'd be a lot harder to showcase it as, in sync. But I like what he's setting up over here on the side with his palm out, and he's kind of looking through, letting them kind of feel their thing and reacting. I think that's super fun. You normally don't see that, and so I like that feature. And they're all pointing at him, and he's pointing at them too. He picks them up, throws them down, and it joins in. Right, nice. So I actually like the fact that he had allowed the feature to take place. He didn't just join right back in immediately, and he didn't just stand on the side letting it happen. So that was just a very different interaction than what I'm used to, and I really like that. Now here, this is a great example. When you have an even number and you want everybody to be seen, look what happens. It's not symmetrical anymore. So my note for this would be, I mean, either you can vary up the levels and still have him in that back and then have him a little bit lower. And then that's going to create a sense of, you can have symmetry on both sides, but that's just my overall note here. To modify that boom, doo-doo-doom. I really like that, how they present up. They hit boom and a doom, and I like that. Notice some of them look away, some look front, because it's more of it feels like a very social type of routine. That kind of stuff they can kind of get away with a little bit more because they're not modifying the integrity of the actual framework of the groove or the movement. Because if they're moving here and then it causes this to shift, then they've moved their head too much. But if it's just an isolation in their choices, absolutely fine. I love how they drop down, but notice that some of them are placating their hinge a little bit more towards the front, over towards the side. I think this would be ideal. So if you want to cover this, I would actually follow my guy right here, or my guy right here, in terms of positioning. I think this is a pretty nice position, and you can get this a lot cleaner than having somebody cater their weight more towards the front. Your weight's going to be a little off, especially depending on context of what's about to happen. Because they finish on the side, you want to have that leverage of usage of the forearm here versus the having your hand planted or having your elbow on there. It's just nice to have it nice and centered on the forearm, and then having them come back up, it's just a cleaner swoop of energy. So I love that he took them and he pulled them up really nice. This is a great, you know, now we're in symmetry because he's directly behind the front guy. I love that. Dee-dee-dee-dee-dee, nice with the heel toes, and allowing their body to kind of be drug along a little bit with the legato. Very fun. They're hitting it around, that ba-da, and then a da-da-da. Love it. Yeah, and he goes, it's just fun. It just puts a smile on your face, and it makes you really want to enjoy what they're doing. Ha, to the front. This sounds like a Zico track. So if I am incorrect, and Zico is not the one in charge of this company, he was not a part of this. There is somebody that is carrying the torch on his behalf, because this song, it just gives off that energy, and I love it. I really do. I love that da-da-da-da-da-da, and everybody's making their own slightly different choice, and because the energy is the same and their spacing is definitely a lot better here, it does make it feel more forgiving, and because they justify their competency and their unison choreo, and there's not really a ton of it, which is totally fine. And a lot of the times whenever their dynamics are the same, their synchronicity and their range is definitely a lot nicer and definitely on the upper, like above average in execution, which is great. And so I feel that whenever they have a lot of these individual moments, or whenever they're popping off in their dynamics, everyone's committing to it, so it's a little bit more forgiving whether or not everyone's doing the exact same thing. And because of the concept that they're doing too, it would be a little bit strange if everybody was doing the exact same thing in the exact same way. It would feel a bit artificial. And for me, this does have a very nice organic social aspect about it, which is what makes it captivating with some of the styles that they chose to present in this, which is super fun. And he sets it out, looks back at his phone. They're all like, hey, go back down. Now it looks like they go down, boom. Really interesting choice on the formation. I think it's very captivating because if you look here, you have somebody, my feature for this part is in the front. He's tailoring more towards this direction. He's tailoring more towards this direction, but to the front, his is more towards the back. He's going straight side. He's going back corner. He's going back side. So notice they're all going different directions, but it works very well because everyone's committing the front and the backs every time. Everyone go to their front, go to their back, go to their front, and except for our feature, he stays midline. It was easy for us to catch him. Then they go ba-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Really nice. It just feels like happy penguins. It just gives off that energy. I love it. And then another shoot. So for me, what I'm curious about is when I see their future stuff is, are we going to be seeing some overlap in some of these movements? For me, I let Psychers, I put that on their radar. Just regardless if they ever watch it, that's a note that I put out into the universe of Psychers needs to be very mindful of that with some of their crossover choreos. For this, I'm curious if they're going to keep with this type of concept, and if they do, which I think would be nice, you run that risk of overlapping grooves and you overlap movements, and it ends up being more than a fingerprint, because fingerprints are totally fine, and I prefer those because it feels like we have an identity as a group. But you don't want it to be where you're biting yourself, like plagiarizing yourself for the sake of cohesion. I think there's a middle ground that you can find with that. So even here, I think this was an example. I caught him. It took him a hot minute to get to the spot, and we've already kind of established the formation. Spacing's also off right there. So this is Boynextdoor needs to make sure they're right next door to each other. Like if it feels like our spacing's just slightly off, the range is a little bit off in that torso in the section 2. The spacing would have really helped with, because notice this space looks similar to this space, but notice how crunched together this section right here is, and then we go back to that space. So that would be my suggestion, is kind of push these two guys back. And then, because for him, he has enough time. I mean, I think he needed to get there a little bit faster. They do have enough room for him to be in the back right there. So that's just my overall note for that. Dun, 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 right there, right over it. I love this. Eyes, nose, lips. I do know that. I picked up on that. I actually really like that now. And it actually took me, about 30 minutes watching the music video and watching this for me to understand that. So shame on me, but also I'm not fluent in Korean, but I'm glad I did watch the music video because I was able to catch that. So thank you, Lauren, for that. He brings it around, he hits it up first, and then everybody else hits it up. Really great way to maintain your feature, but keep him involved in the choreography. That heel tap, and then that drop was really nice with the pickup. And that boom, boom. I love that you hear that double bass, boom, boom, drop. They all hit it, but it was very subtle, so it felt filling, but it wasn't overbearing to the feature. I love that. That right there is doing tic-tac-toe variations. This is light feet, so they're all ciphering around. So he hits it down. That was interesting that he chose to, technically how he was setting up for a lock-in, and he kind of did a lock-in, but then he held it, and then he dropped it. And I actually really like that. That's another example of, I'm really hopeful that they understand the culture that comes from, the culture of light feet. That's, it's deemed like a branch off of hip-hop, because it came from, I think it comes from, Harlem. It came from Harlem. Please forgive me if I'm wrong. It's been a hot minute since I've done my due diligence and research. I do understand the key elements of light feet, though. You have your tone wop, your rev up, your bad one, and your lock-in are kind of your go-to moves that really help establish a set for light feet. Lock-ins are typically the thing that really settles out your set. If you don't do a lock-in, it's like a beat, a drop that never happens in a dubstep track. It's the equivalence of that. So like, it's really important to make sure that you finish out a light feet section appropriately, and I think they did a pretty good job of that. I do feel like it was a bit on the static side, but those tic-tac-toes didn't quite feel as clear. It felt a tad bit muddled, but I could understand the style they were going for, though, nonetheless. And I love the energy of them kind of collapsing out of it. It was fun, and it really helped keep that power and energy in that secondary section of that. And I don't like you. I love that. It's just very full in how he comes up, and he's like, kind of a bit discombobulated, and then we bring it back through. Once again, a spacing issue here. I would say we got a big spacing gap in the back row in comparison to my front row. And that's just life, that's just what happens. And also a note, it looks like we have 4 people in the back. No. So we actually have 2 in the back, 2 in the mid, but we have nobody in center, and then 2 in the front. So that's why it's really important. Like, whoever sets over here, it's important that it's replicated over here on this side, because it helps promote symmetry, because you have these 2 triangles. And that's just my overall note for that. I love that cross. Da-da, boom, da-da-da. I love that. I do feel like if we threw with our back, that would have made that feel a little bit fuller, and they would have been able to extend their arms a little bit more. But I like the hops there, diving it through. I feel like for this, a lot of people are committing with their arms, and some are using their shoulders to make it happen. So that would just be an overall, in general, kind of making the commitment a little bit more full, or everybody needs to be on the same page with their arms, and their lean and their hinge with their hips. So that's just in general note for that. Diving it through, ta-da-da-da. Hits, eyes, nose, lips, and then they're hitting it through, bringing it down. Still keeping your feature in the center, but once again, if you look, it's not symmetrical anymore because you have your 1-point feature. And this is precisely why agencies debut odd numbers, with the exception of like 4, So it's like, normally it's like 4, 5, 7 is a typical number. 6 is a very interesting number. 10 is a new interesting number to me because of Psychers, and then ATs had 8, and then you have Baby Monsters now at 6, but they were at 7. But a lot of groups typically cater to 7. It's like that golden number, you know how it is. So, but with 6, you can absolutely make it work. I've seen it done many a times over, especially whenever you watch, for me, when I watch D-League, they operate out of 8, and they do a phenomenal job of maintaining symmetry with these 1-point features throughout it, but that's a dance, that's a whole dance circuit. It's not this. But here, I'm trying to think, I would just say this is my overall note, to kind of explore a different formation option, or to figure out a way to make this work a little bit better. Maybe if there's a 2-part feature, this would be a little bit, like, this choice would be a little bit better, where you could showcase everybody. But once again, to each their own. It's their first track. I don't see as big of an issue with it. It's just a general note of if you want your spacing, because that's the biggest thing that I'm noticing here. If you want your spacing to look more refined, then you would need to factor in placement of everybody too. Turning it around, because it just feels very incomplete in this space, and that's my overall point. He points through, and then we have everybody kind of existing, having fun. Ooh, it's cute. And then having him come in the front, and then they all walk away, and he's like, yep, and they're all finished, and he runs away, or not run away, but they're like all stuck on him in the back. That was very, very cute. I really like that, and it makes me excited to take a look at their future work. This was such a great start for me.